Godzilla Minus One is an epic movie. This is out in theaters now, and I went to see this at an early screening on a Wednesday at the RPX screen in Regal Times Square. This was a huge screen, a big IMAX like screen, and I was a little upset this was only playing for a day in IMAX. The Beyonce movie, which came out, took over the screens, and I was thinking, damn, I have to go see this. And I'm glad I got to see Godzilla on the biggest screen possible. I've been watching these Godzilla movies since 2014's Gareth Edwards one. When that came out, I didn't really like it, but I kind of learned to appreciate it. I saw it multiple times after, and I really did appreciate it. That's one of the only Hollywood movies to take a really serious angle. It was different for a blockbuster, and also the human angle in that was much better than a lot of the other Godzilla films. Even the really campy and fun 60s and 70s John Facunda ones, those are candy colored and they're silly, but they are just, that's what they are. They're silly. And I feel like as a Godzilla movie, you can do so much more. And there's even the Godzilla vs. Hedorah, which dealt with pollution. And not that the humans are really the best part of it, they usually aren't. It's just that you can do a lot with the Godzilla franchise. And the Hollywood Godzilla movies like Godzilla vs. Kong and King of the Monsters, even the fact that there's a new Monarch TV show out now, it just feels like they're often flashing the IP that they're own. And I can't deny that with Godzilla vs. Kong there was a bit of fun, but there's always feels like there's something missing, like a really big human element. And Godzilla Minus One is a major return to form. This is the second reboot after Shin Godzilla in 2016. If you didn't see Shin Godzilla, that's okay. This is a reboot, so you don't have to follow the continuity. I thought they would make great companion films, though, because Shin Godzilla was based on the Fukushima disaster, and that reimagined Godzilla in modern day, where he's destroying Japan, and it mostly focused on the government, focused on interiors and boardrooms where they're discussing how they have to cease panic, how they have to stop the chaos, and how they're going to deal with this problem. And I think that this one is great because while it's a reboot and it's set in post-World War II Japan, it mostly deals with humans. The government is not even in this. Minus One is a real film. It's really what happens when a director, writer, and actors, VFX artists, the entire crew comes together and make a great story. The musical strokes in this are great. I love how it doesn't bombard you with the Godzilla theme. It just waits and applies it at the perfect moment. And this is not a war film, too. There's a grounded quality in the setting. I think that setting this in post-World War II Japan is great because Godzilla movies haven't really done that yet. And having a devastated Japan where they're at zero, but then Godzilla arrives, and hence the title Minus One. They go from zero to minus one. I like that idea. And it also has some really great thematic stuff going on. And when I say this movie's grounded, it has a great pace, it really finds its groove immediately. It doesn't hide Godzilla from you. In a way, while I do really like 2014's Godzilla, which was not your typical summer blockbuster, that film got some flack because they didn't show a lot of Godzilla, but this movie shows him right away. It has a beautiful opening, a very devastating opening, but it's very well paced and set in Japan as they're losing the war. A kamikaze pilot named Shikishima, who's disillusioned with the war, he lands his plane on a beach, he pretends it's damaged, and when he's at this repair facility, Godzilla attacks, and it's such a memorable opening. It traumatizes Shikishima as he watches these other pilots and soldiers die, and he has to return home to Japan where he has to face this devastation. And here, the characters are really, really good. I mean, I really got hooked into the story based on this guy alone, and usually the thing is the human characters, how they intertwine with Godzilla, is not so good, but in this movie, it's so good. I didn't think they were unneeded. I actually cared about the characters in this movie. So when Shikishima comes back to Japan to find everything he knows gone, he, is very devastated, but then he finds Noriko, a woman who is taking care of a young child, and they survive the war, and they start to heal. They form a found family. And Shikishima gets a job on a boat, shooting down mines, and Noriko gets an office job, and a lot of the early stuff in this movie is just showing the city as it heals, and there's a wonderful, wholesome quality to this. You see Shikishima on a boat with the crew as they work to take down active mines, and there's such a fun energy with these likable characters. It actually makes you dread Godzilla coming back. I think that's a great thing. It really makes you feel something for this movie. I feel like in the American adaptations, all they do is zigzag between the monsters and the humans, like, oh, Kyle Chandler's on a boat. Oh, look, now here's Kong. But here they've built up the characters so well, and you just want them to live, and you don't want them to come into contact with Godzilla. It's also very real when you watch a movie. This stuff is usually dramatized or cut in a montage, but they just play it for you here, and you just become immersed in this family's life. And by the time Godzilla attacks, you're already so engaged. This beautiful family at the center of the movie really boosted it, in my opinion. And on top of that, you have a great Godzilla with a great representation of how Usually it's how the government will try and stop him, but this movie takes a different approach. It shows how there aren't anyone around because the country's devastated. It shows the humans coming together, the citizens of this country, like the crew on the boat who were taking down the mines. They work together to find a way to stop Godzilla. And there's just this great underdog mentality here. And this film's about how people take charge in the wake of a total disaster. And it's an uplifting story, which is surprising. And on top of that, I just loved the Godzilla in this movie. I love how you have multiple perspectives from the people on the ground, you have the people on the boat, and you have this family. You just have a very fully functioning tale. I really loved it. I really loved seeing it on an IMAX screen. I just, at the end of the day, recommend this movie. I think it was very good. It was very emotional. People were cheering at the end of this movie. I won't give anything away, but there were definitely emotional parts that, you had people cheering. People were wiping their eyes at the end of the movie. And I love how it just ends with the classic Godzilla theme playing. Overall, just such a great cinematic experience. It's very much about spectacle. It isn't, there aren't so many characters like Godzilla vs. Kong. There aren't one-liners being dropped. I love Brian Tyree Henry, but I thought Godzilla vs. Kong was so random. There's just so much going on. This is a great movie. I highly recommend it. It's one of the best recent Godzilla films, so definitely check it out. Thank you guys for watching.